have you given yourself the opportunity to keep going? Because one of the things that can lead to failure is a runway that's too short. So for example, I didn't, quit my day job in a dramatic gesture and then start a business. I was working at least part-time, but that was just because I couldn't get full-time work. But I was working my various part-time jobs while I was learning about how to become an entrepreneur and how to build websites and how to build a business and so on. Which means that I had a really long runway, I could basically keep plugging away at this for years and still just sustain myself with the work I was doing. And that is something, again, like that's a factor where it's like you make your own luck in a way, right? It's like, hey, if I give myself a long enough runway and I can just say, look, I can keep plugging away at this, I can keep learning, I can keep building my skills, and I can just keep going and keep going and keep going, I'll have that many more chances to make something succeed compared to if I put myself in a situation where I'm like, okay, in the next 3 months, this has to happen. Otherwise, I have to change everything again, or I'm in huge trouble, But another thing that comes to mind is like, okay, if someone's struggling, they feel like I can't keep doing this. The question is, well, why not? What's going wrong? Like, are you working on something that isn't that interesting to you? So this would be, for example, I think this would be a common get rich quick symptom, where if someone has told you, start a drop shipping e-commerce store on Shopify, that's the way to get rich quick. And they've told you all these stories of I made $300,000 in the first 6 weeks and stuff like that, right? And then you start this e-commerce business, and the only thing that drives you is like, I want money immediately, right? And then that is not something that will sustain you through everything you have to learn about how to build and optimize an e-commerce website and how to, how to do all the logistics and how to drive traffic and so on and so forth. Right? There's like a million things you have to learn. And if you're not interested in this in some way, if there's not something you find interesting about the process, it's going to be super difficult to get there. So compare that to someone who comes in thinking like, okay, I understand that building a business is difficult. I understand that this will take a lot of time, but also it's like fascinating, and there may be things about, this is basically about like playing the game, right? It's like, can you enjoy playing the game for the sake of playing it? And that doesn't mean you have to love everything about it. But for example, for me, when I started building websites and stuff, I started my online business activity, there are many things about it that I find like, I don't love it. I don't love everything about it. But there are also many things I really enjoy. For example, I really enjoy design. I'm interested in design, in learning about what makes good design, what's the difference design-wise between a good website and a bad website. I'm really interested in psychology. So understanding like human behavior, why do people buy from this page but not from that page, that kind of thing. So because there's like these points of interest like sprinkled throughout, it's like I said, if you start a business, it's like 1,000 things you have to learn. And it's very unlikely that you're passionate about all of those 1,000 things, and you can't, you jump out of bed every morning going, oh yay, I'm going to learn about how to optimize a database for my e-commerce store or something. But even if they're just things that are like sprinkled throughout, where you can say, well, this is fascinating to me, this is interesting to me, that is something that can sustain you. And I think that, that's just the way it is, right? In most cases, you have to be in it for the relatively long term. And you have to see, I'm also not a believer in like just like gritting your teeth and doing things that you hate so that at some point in the future you can make money. I don't think that's a good approach. I also, I feel like this approach is often like preached for various, It's like, oh, you have to study to become a lawyer or something. Even if you hate it and the studies are super hard and you don't even want to do this, you have to do it because it's such a prestigious career. And, you're kind of forced. And it's almost like then the story is, yes, do all these super hard things, even though you hate them, and just grit your teeth and keep doing this for years and years and years. And then at some point in the distant, distant future, you'll have money and you can retire or something. It's like, man, I don't want to live like that. I don't think that's a good approach. I also think that this is an approach that works for very few people, if any, because what I have found in talking to successful entrepreneurs, and in fact talking to like highly accomplished people in general, they always have a certain love for the game or a certain fascination with at least aspects of the game. So I think it's important that you find something that is like interesting enough for you. And one way to think of it is like you need to find an intersection between stuff that you're interested in and stuff that has economic value, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of stuff doesn't have economic value. And hopefully you can still do those things. Hopefully you can have that as a hobby or something, right? But for making a living, you have to find an intersection between something you're interested in and something that's economically valuable. And again, I'm talking about being interested in it. I think it's also overrated to talk about, oh, you have to be passionate about it, you have to love it. That's not a great filter either.